has been on fire since yesterday. I see all internet just silent. Nobody they carry the news. Oh, Iran is burning. May they not deceive now. Social media warrior where they thought they don't win war. We are in the week 5 of this ongoing campaign in Iran. Steel manufacturing and nuclear development facility is all burnt down. In fact, over 80 bombs dropped in a single night yesterday. Donald Trump even said in his post that they have a very good day yesterday in Iran, destroying all their missile sites. Iran weapon production sites dismantled. Anti-tank and anti-aircraft compound manufacturer hit. Ballistic missiles engine arrow and D complex attacked. Multiple weapon production sites destroyed yesterday. They finish Iran. Nothing remains for Iran again. May they just come to the negotiation table and surrender. Because this second phase where America tell they come so with the boots on the ground there, they go hear pepper, they go hear mwe, they go cry blood. How I wish they know the plan of Donald Trump. They say Donald Trump is not straight. Will it be straightforward? How will it be straightforward? If it's be straightforward, you people will know his secrets, you will know his status, you will know his next move. So, because he said that they are on negotiating table and the negotiation is going well, but as long as the negotiation is going well, bomb is still flying on the air. Then they say, you said you are negotiating in one side, in the other side, you are bringing more military to the table, you are bringing more military on ground, you are bringing more troops to Middle East, and you say you are negotiating. That is how it works. It's peace with strength. Peace with strength works together. You cannot be making peace and just hold on. No, you have to continue, putting pressure on them for them to accept your 15-peace deal and come to the negotiation table. That is what Donald Trump is doing here. And they want to understand him. How will you understand a man like Donald Trump that have different ways of tactics to attack an enemy? If you can't let them know in full plan, know how to fight, to pass it, they are all confused. Everybody are confused. The European, are confused. The NATO are confused. They don't understand this man. You say one thing now, Donald Trump will talk one today. Tomorrow he will do a different. But before we continue, let's listen to this update coming out right now from Israel. Let's listen to it.
First, we turn it over to Trey Inks in Israel with the latest on the Iran war. Trey.
Todd Carley, good morning. Operation Epic Fury has now entered week 5, and the United States continues to hammer the Iranian regime. Overnight, President Trump took to Truth Social to say, quote, "Big day in Iran. Many long sought-after targets have been taken out and destroyed by our great military, the finest and most lethal in the world. God bless you all." The president's comments come after a series of U.S. and Israeli strikes over the weekend that targeted Iran's steel manufacturing sites and nuclear development facilities. Reports indicate the president is considering a limited ground operation inside of Iran, following the arrival of the USS Tripoli, manned with 3,500 troops, including 2,500 Marines, to the CENTCOM area of operation. The president was asked about the status of military plans yesterday, saying this.
We've had very good negotiations today with Iran, getting a lot of the things that they should have given us a long time ago. We'll see how it works out, but they're very good. Moving along very nicely.
Are you considering still putting boots on the ground, and would you do that without going to Congress?
I just have lots of alternatives. We have tremendous numbers of ships over there. We don't need them all because of, the power. We're ahead of schedule with Iran.
As the war grinds on, Iran is continuing its ballistic missile attacks against Israel, focusing attacks on southern Israel in recent days. A chemical plant outside the city of Beersheba was hit with a missile fragment yesterday, causing toxic black smoke to spew from the facility. The area around the plant was evacuated. With these strikes ongoing, a spokesperson for Iran's IRGC talked over the weekend about the war and President Trump.
Trump threatens an issue one morning and retreats that same evening. He talks about negotiations for a while and decides to continue the war hours later.
What the Iranians don't understand is that President Trump wants them to be confused about the military plans for the United States. We also have another development to report this hour. The Iran-backed Lebanese militant group Hezbollah launched rockets over the border a few minutes ago. A fragment from one of those rockets hit the oil refinery in the northern Israeli city of Haifa. Guys.
All right, Trey Ying's live for us in Israel. Trey, thank you so much. Let's bring in retired Navy SEAL and host of the Everyday Warrior podcast, Mike Sturley. Mike, thanks for joining us. So that is the question here. The president says that he has a lot of options when asked about ground troops, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio also made comments this weekend saying that we absolutely can achieve our objectives without troops on the ground. But at the same time, there is this military buildup with the USS Tripoli in the region right now. So where do you think things are going as we enter a new week here?
Well, Carly, great to join you this morning. You know, Trump is creating leverage through optionality. And when you send the Marines, that becomes real consequences for our adversaries. And he wants Tehran to know that. But, you know, this looming ground invasion, Iran wants us to think Fallujah 2.0. I guarantee you the Pentagon is thinking limited combat operations, which is controlled violence with a map while keeping an eye on the clock. We will not get bogged down in another Iraq-style, sort of mission. And so this is not a 2003 Iraq sort of road to Tehran march. This is limited objectives. That's either key nodes, seizure of infrastructure, or even nuclear material. But that leverage is what gives Trump strength in these negotiations with Iran.
Iranian officials have made comments saying the U.S. is unaware that our men are waiting for American soldiers to enter on the ground so they can set them ablaze and punish their regional partners forever. What should we know about Iran's military if troops do enter on the ground?
Well, Carly, let's look back in history. Iran actually has experience here. They were providing, Iranian special forces known as Quds forces to support the Saudi or the modern militia in Sadr City in 2008. And they were very violent. Ultimately, Iran can't stand conventional army to conventional army. They would get decimated. So what they're looking at and what they understand is the survival of the regime, meaning their soldiers, hundreds of thousands to include the Basij, would trade their uniforms for plain clothes, move into urban centers, hide amongst the populace, and create this irregular asymmetric warfare, which we know in urban environments, and even RAND and the U.S. War College have done studies where urban combat actually declines your technological advantage and bogs you down in a, let's say, manpower-intensive, block-to-block fighting style, which leads to a lot of casualties.
Wow, yeah.
We know that.
Yeah, and you know, Mike, on that note, the Wall Street Journal has a piece detailing just how complicated extracting the nuclear uranium, the uranium material would be. And the bottom line that they have come to is that it would take days to weeks to extract. So the chances of that happening, in your opinion, are what?
I would say they're still high. I mean, a large part of the objectives of this campaign was to remove their ability to enrich uranium, also to even hold uranium. So, think of a Marine or 82nd Airborne style special operations limited raid to go in and seize that material. Now, can we hold it for days and weeks? Yes, given our war power and our strength, we can do that. There's a lot of risk.
That sounds remarkable. And then finally, really quickly to you, because the other big news is that the president says that Iran has agreed to allow 20 more ships of oil through the Strait of Hormuz. Do you think that is a sign that they could be willing to negotiate, or could that be self-serving?
No, it's about the regime and their survival. I think what we're seeing is a power struggle within the remaining leaders in Iran. People are trying to consolidate power. So right now, a lot of the conversations are going through the parliament speaker, Golubov, and he's consolidating power. So they are going to give a little, knowing the consequences that we are surging troops, the Marines and the 82nd Airborne forward. They are trying to find the right negotiation standpoints to maintain the survivability of this regime moving forward. That's all they care about.
Yeah, and as Trey was reporting, Hezbollah once again striking Israel, and yesterday the Houthis also entered the situation with 2 missile strikes launched against Israel as well. Mike, thank you so much for joining us.
In this section, on this day being the 26th day of March 2026, I will be sharing some insights, some personal insight, and also making some reference to what some experts across the globe have also, opined as a way of submission, considering the current step that the United States of America is taking so far by deploying, United States of American Special Allied Forces, the 82nd Airborne Division, That is alongside the 2,200 Marines that were earlier deployed. In my own honest opinion, I think there is a playbook going on which the United States of America is yet to make publicly available. Probably the Iranian Revolutionary Guard or the Islamic Republic of Iran may have also had a glimpse or a hint of what is to come, because from what the state media in Iran is currently putting out there supposes that they may have had an intel what is to come. According to one of the parliament speaker from Iran, he maintained that the United States of America is planning to invade Iran. That is the news that is currently trending out there. And earlier before that time, the Iranian spokesperson, the Iranian Defense Ministry, has already put out a statement there, alongside with the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. The most recent now is a very big threat that if the United States of America invades Iran, that they will go ahead and carry out coastal invasion, that they will be occupying United Arab Emirates and Bahrain. That is the most recent now from Iranian Revolutionary Guard or the Islamic Republic of Iran. That if the United States of America invades their country, that they will occupy the coastal line of Bahrain and United Arab Emirates. This is aside the threat they already released, that if the United States of America send their troops down to Iran, that they are going to massacre them using their swarm of drones and missiles and all of that. Now, having registered all of these threats coming from Iran, currently, over 30 nations of NATO allies have come together and made out a unanimous signatory to supporting United States of America and Israel, of course, in securing the Strait of Hormuz so that oil business will continue as usual. Don't forget that earlier before now, NATO was very reluctant to come into this very fight. NATO didn't want to support Donald Trump at all. And that prompted Donald Trump to call them weak allies, that he knew that NATO was not going to help. But today, according to the publication that was made by the Secretary of NATO, or NATO Secretary, Mark Rutte, announcement supposed that over 22 nations, NATO allies, have lent their support to support, whichever way, military-wise and otherwise, to make sure that Strait of Hormuz is opened. And later, I think about 7 other nations was also enlisted, then making them more than 30 nations as we speak. Now, what does that signify? It signifies that they will be supporting the mission of Donald J. Trump in opening the Strait of Hormuz, military-wise, supporting by way of bringing their submarines, bringing their naval warship, bringing whatever that needs to be brought forward in order to make sure that Strait of Hormuz is open for business. Because like I've already opined in my previous video, the European Union will be heavily struck if the Strait of Hormuz is not open for free flow of oil business. In fact, their economy will go into a very big recession before inflation will even hit the United States of America. So they are being responsive. Japan, France, UK, and many of them, they are all now coming together to support the mission in Iran. And again, Uganda has released a statement saying that if for any reason that this war must end as soon as possible, that if this war does not end, and if Israel is about to be defeated, or if for any reason there is a threat of defeating Israel, that they will not hesitate to come into the war. Of course, for many of you who do not know, Uganda has military ties with Israel under the leadership of Mr. Yosoveni, or what you call him, the president. So the Israel provide them with military training and other military hardwares and infrastructure. So it is in the right place for them to also register their agitation and be willing to support Israel, as the case may be. Also, there is another nation around, another group, another armed forces, around Djibouti. Djibouti is in the Central Africa. that made a publication recently saying that their forces are already stationed at the Djibouti, sea or Djibouti Ocean, that they are ready to work with Donald J. Trump in securing the Strait of Hormuz and making sure that Iran is decapitated. I've never heard of this group. I think they call them Ansar Alago. I don't know, but take a look at that very video.
Positioned deep within the territorial waters of Djibouti, which directly overlook the strategic Bab al-Mandab Strait. This crucial and vital maritime passage is presently experiencing a period of cautious calm and heightened anticipation following. The Ansar Allah Group has officially announced that its hand is firmly on the trigger and that it remains fully prepared to intervene at any given moment. This is the specific region where numerous cargo vessels and oil tankers are presently situated, having made the decision to remain within this very locale until a state of calm and stability is fully re-established across the Middle East. Of course, the Taya and Atanya parties threats have compelled the forces responsible for securing maritime navigation within the strait to elevate their alert levels to the absolute maximum in order to effectively deal with any potential threats. The Djiboutian Coast Guard, on board one of whose patrol boats we are currently, its officials have informed Al Jazeera that they have significantly intensified their security patrols and maritime reconnaissance missions and have raised their operational readiness level to effectively respond to and manage a wide range of different potential scenarios.
The security situation in this particular region is currently quite stable. Indeed, it has remained stable up to this very moment, and we have not observed any isolated incidents or any direct threats whatsoever to maritime navigation. But we continue to follow field developments with utmost attention, given the escalating situation in the Middle East, as the course of events in the next phase remains unclear.
In addition to that, the United Arab Emirates minister has also granted a press briefing where he called the actions of the Iranians, the Islamic Republic of Iran, to be highly irresponsible. I mean, when I listened to that very press briefing, I was able to understand that calling or saying that Iran's raining missile on their neighbors in the Gulf nation is an act of, rascality, is an act of irresponsibility. So when I listened to that very minister, I was, edified that my submission about the actions of Iran were not born out of hatred. It was also not born out of dislike or, something, but pure analytical submission based on their conduct since the war started. So when you listen to the press briefing of the UAE minister, you will understand that they are now ready to work with the United States of America and other NATO allies to securing the Strait of Hormuz, because UAE currently is also a threat. Not only Israel now is an existential threat, UAE is also an existential threat in the Gulf, since Iran has equally made it clear that if USA invades Iran, that they are going to occupy the coastal lines of UAE and Bahrain. So from that very press briefing, you will understand that I was saddened, I must be very honest, from the comment sections, from people from the Middle East, from Iran, and from some other countries. Some were saying, is UAE even an Islamic country? That they are not even practicing Islam. Come on. United Arab Emirates, like I said in one of my videos, has carved out a future for themselves. They have worked tirelessly to build their country to the world standard that today Dubai is a destination for tourists across the globe. What are you talking about? Bringing religious, affiliations and religious sentiment into what? Build your economy. Forget about your religion. Forget about what you believe in. Is Saudi Arabia not an Islamic nation? Is Qatar not an Islamic nation? This is principally one of the things that has destroyed the world, which is why I am one of those persons that can never be an advocate of any form of rascality or any form of terrorism across the globe, because all of this religious fanaticism breeds, extremism, and that is where this terrorism or terrorist activities you see today in the world emanates from. So listen to the UAE minister, and we shall take it further from there.
I want to ask you what happened, what transpired. Just last month, February 9th, you met in Tehran with the Iranian foreign minister. Out of that, you said there were useful and constructive talks, the determination for bilateral relations between Iran and the UAE to expand. In this war, if you look at the chart, the red dots are the attacks on Gulf Arab states. And you, in this chart, at the UAE, have seen exponentially more attacks than even Israel. Why is Israel being attacked, or UAE being attacked, more than Israel?
There are a lot of questions there. I think they're really important ones. But you're right, over 60% of the attacks, more than Israel and the Gulf countries combined, have been directed at the UAE. And that's a fundamental question. Why? But going back to your first question, we've always tried the diplomatic channel with Iran. We've tried it for decades. And I was in Tehran in early February. We have been working with the United States for months to try and de-escalate tensions in the region. We were supportive of direct negotiations between the United States and Iran. We did not ask for a war in our region. We did not start a war in our region. But as a result of these operations, we have now seen Iran take the irresponsible decision, instead of negotiating with the United States over really well understood concerns over its nuclear program, over its ballistic missiles program, over its support of non-state terrorist actors in the region. Instead of negotiating over those issues, they chose instead to fire over 2,200 missiles and drones at the United Arab Emirates, a peacemaker in the region, a country that signed the Abraham Accords 5 years ago, a country that has tried to extend the hand of peace to Iran, a country that has tried to push for negotiations and dialogue. So the question is why? And I think the answer is because we are an idea that threatens Iran, that threatens this regime, because we are open, we are progressive, we are tolerant, we're a vibrant economy. And what have they done for their people with the resources that they have? They sit across 3 continents just the same way we do. They have inflation, their currency is in free fall. They had a spate of killing protesters in January. This is a really ruthless regime, and President Trump is right to hold it to account today.
President Trump is...
So, having established all of this, now let's talk about the main thing. There is no doubt Iran has demonstrated some level of strength, yes, for keeping up with this war in the last 26 days up till this time, and still even ready to move forward. And this is where and why I said probably there is a playbook that Donald Trump is trying to work with, which is yet to be made public. Even though Iran has demonstrated strength, I can tell you the amount of damages and harm that United States of America Air Force and Israeli Defense Force have done in Iran, it will take them ages and trillions of dollars to rebuild them. And that is why they have enlisted in one of their conditions for the ceasefire, is that they will be compensated for all the war losses. Because most of the targets, over 9,000 targets, the United States of America Air Force do already hit within this time, are purely infrastructural in nature. Either missile production facility, research center, storage underground, this, that, and that. These were targets being, pointed out, streamlined out by the United States of America, and they've been decimating them, decapitating them heavily. So they are currently at a very big loss. However, they have demonstrated strength. And Iran, over the last 47 years, have been building different high-profile bunkers and tunnels. Now, as it stands, some of the airstrikes may not be enough to decapitate Iran completely. Yes, therefore it becomes necessary that either boots on ground or troops on ground comes in to finish the job. Just as part of the special elite group from the 82nd Division, United States of American Airborne, 82nd Airborne Division that is being deployed down to Iran, and the Marines. These are very special team that I believe that must be on ground first to destroy, disconnect, assess, claim, seize, maneuver what need to be maneuvered, what need to be disconnected, what needs to be taken over, even before the ground troops or the ground forces comes on board, because they need to reduce the level of danger and the level of catastrophe that the Iranian Revolutionary Guard could cause to the ground troops if they're coming now without the special forces first of all coming in. So the combination of the special forces and the ground troops, principally These are purely necessary with what is going on in Iran today to conduct what they call search and destroy. Search and destroy could be the nuclear site where the Islamic Republic of Iran, has hidden their enriched uranium, and the entry point, the exit point to many of these their underground missile facilities, underground missile storage facilities, the one that is still remaining, the one that is still surviving. So some of these key locations and key sites need to also be hacked into. You know what I mean? Through this operation, search and destroy. Search and destroy is simply an operation that helps to reduce, maximize the body count of the enemy. That is to say, anybody where they catch, they buy them. Anybody where they catch, they buy them. And then some also surviving leaders will equally be captured alive. You know what I mean? So when this happens, it forms part of the military operations strategy and political objective. You know what I mean? So this search and destroy becomes necessary in Iran today because they have proven that they still have some, high profile ballistic missiles, especially these cluster missiles that are probably hidden somewhere in underground bunker. You know what I mean? So these special forces and these ground troops, combined together will certainly unravel the mystery behind where Iran has hidden some of these missiles and drones. And if at the end of the day, this military operations becomes successful, that will be the end of Iran's threat to the entire Middle East, to the entire Gulf nations. Because if United States of American forces maneuvers and seizes Iran, Kharg Island, for example, that controls 90 to 95% of their oil exportation, that is a heavy blow. That is a very big pressure on Iran towards making a deal to ending the war. Number one, if eventually they succeed also in opening the Strait of Hormuz, that is another heavy blow on Iran, mounting another pressure on them to making a deal towards ending the war. So a combination of these activities, and if eventually the ground troops finally also comes in, that helps to carry out some of these final operations of search and destroy, then it becomes very clear that the entire Iran has been captured. And this will achieve the initial objective of this war, which is the initial political objective of this war, which is regime change in Iran. Because by the time these special forces alongside with the troops have taken over most of these underground missile facilities, capture some of their leaders, it becomes very easy to have a change of government successfully. However, all of this will not happen swiftly without hindrances, without resistance. There will certainly be resistance, there will be casualties, but the arrival of the special forces, the 82nd Airborne Division and the Marine Troop down to the region, their presence will help to de-escalate and also reduce the severity or whatever may be the adverse effect if eventually later on ground troops needs to come in to finish up the combo operation of search and destroy. You know what I mean? In order to fulfill the military operations, its strategy and political objectives at the end of the day. So it's an interesting time ahead of all of us. Iran is threatening fire and brimstone, what they will do and what they will not do if USA invades them. All of these have all been registered by all the Gulf nations, all their neighbors. They already know now the amount of threat that Iran possesses on them. You know what I mean? So, and I'm pretty sure they would want this war not just to end, but to end with a commitment that their safety is also guaranteed within the region. Yes. Aside the fact that Iran will also attack the United States of America, 82nd Airborne Division that is currently being deployed, and possibly the ground troop if they eventually come in. There is no signal yet, an approval from the US that ground troops are coming, but some experts are saying that ground troops will eventually come in by the time this 82nd Airborne Division, are fully deployed and executed their first primary mission and objectives alongside with the Marines. That the outcome of their mission execution will determine whether the ground troops will come in and when they will eventually come in. And this time probably Iran will be overwhelmed Because if all the NATO allies decides to also support by providing ground troops, not just providing vessels, ammunitions and naval ships and all of that for the Strait of Hormuz, but also providing ground troops, then Iran will entirely be overwhelmed by the presence of these ground troops at the end of the day. So we will continue to watch closely and see what happens in the next 72 hours, because probably before that time the United States of America 82nd Airborne Division would have landed in the Middle East, and the Marine would have arrived by that time, and then we'll take it all from there and see what happens next. I sincerely hope and pray that the oil business, that the Strait of Hormuz principally becomes open, so that we avert the dangers of global economic crisis that is already looming around the corner. And at this point, I'll allow you guys to be the judge. Don't forget to let me know what you think in the comment section and share this video. My another person here.